It all started with a silence so sharp you could almost hear it cut through the walls of Amazon MGM studios. A silence that followed after one of Hollywood's most powerful women, Jennifer Salk, looked around a boardroom full of stunned executives and said just 6 words, "This ends now. No more Meghan Markle." The sentence dropped like a thunderclap. Everyone froze. Phones stopped vibrating. Coffee cups trembled slightly in people's hands. For years, no one had dared to say out loud what the industry whispered behind closed doors. But Jennifer Salk wasn't just anyone. She was the gatekeeper of modern Hollywood, the woman who had built empires and broken egos. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. What could drive someone like her, a woman known for diplomacy, strategy, and quiet authority, to erupt so publicly, so decisively, against a global celebrity who had once been treated like royalty? Was it personal? Was it professional? Or was it something deeper, a reckoning that had been building for years under the glossy surface of Hollywood smiles? To answer that, we have to go back to the moment when Meghan Markle first walked into the Amazon MGM headquarters. Dazzling smile, designer white suit, camera flashes bouncing off the marble floors. Everyone wanted a piece of her then. A duchess in Hollywood was more than a headline. It was a spectacle. Executives leaned in as she talked about her vision. Journalists flooded the lobby, and PR teams whispered about the new era of streaming royalty. For a moment, it seemed like Meghan had finally found her kingdom. But here's the irony. The same kingdom she thought she conquered would soon turn against her. And leading that revolt was Jennifer Salk herself, the Hollywood powerhouse who once rolled out the red carpet for Meghan. The same woman who later slammed the door shut so hard, it echoed across the industry. Because this story isn't just about a celebrity falling from grace. It's about the system that built her, believed her, and eventually broke her. Imagine the scene. Late afternoon, Los Angeles sunlight melting into amber streaks across the glass tower of Amazon Studios. Inside, tension fills the boardroom. A leaked email has circulated, budget overruns, production chaos, staff quitting mid-season. The words unprofessional conduct and brand misalignment appear too many times to ignore. And at the center of it all, Meghan Markle's new project, the one that was supposed to prove she was more than a duchess, more than a tabloid headline. Jennifer Salk stares at the screen, jaw tightening. Around her, her executive team shifts nervously. Some want to defend Meghan. Others want to pull the plug immediately. Jennifer listens, then raises a hand. "Enough," she says quietly. "We're not here to make fairy tales. We're here to make television." That line would later trend on social media, plastered across gossip sites and industry blogs. But at that moment, it was more than a quip, it was a verdict. See, Hollywood has a short memory but a long record. Every misstep, every whispered complaint, every unreturned email leaves a trace. And for months, those traces had been gathering under Meghan's name. Missed deadlines, demands for creative control, leaked stories to the press, meetings that felt more like royal briefings than collaboration sessions. Jennifer Salk had tolerated it longer than most. But then came the breaking point. There was a dinner, private, exclusive, hosted at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Meghan was late, very late. When she finally arrived, she brought her own photographer, uninvited. A flash went off mid-toast. The mood changed instantly. Later that night, Jennifer received a call from one of her senior producers. "If this continues, we'll lose the entire team." That was the spark, the beginning of the end. From there, things spiraled fast. Scripts rewritten without approval. Staff feeling sidelined. Meghan allegedly using her title to intimidate lower-level employees. Inside sources described the environment as toxic, tense, and totally out of control. And then came the final straw, a leaked audio recording from a production meeting. In it, Meghan could allegedly be heard dismissing the writing team, saying, "I'm the brand here. They work around me." The audio circulated privately among executives before it reached Jennifer Salk's desk. When she heard it, she didn't even finish her coffee. She called an emergency meeting for the next morning. Here's where the story gets fascinating and brutal. Because what happened in that meeting didn't just end a project, it ended a career. Executives described Jennifer as calm but fierce. She went line by line through the contract, pointing out every clause Meghan had violated. "This isn't how professionals behave," she said. "This isn't Hollywood. This is entitlement dressed up as creativity." The room went silent. Someone coughed. Another reached for their pen, not daring to meet her eyes. By the time she finished, Meghan's fate was sealed. But Jennifer wasn't done. She issued a follow-up memo that would later be called the industry wake-up call. In it, she wrote, "Talent without respect is noise. We're not here to enable noise." Those words became a rallying cry across studios, an unspoken warning that even the most glamorous stars could fall if they crossed the wrong line. Now, imagine Meghan at home, scrolling through headlines as the memo leaked. Amazon cuts ties with Meghan Markle's production, one read. Jennifer Sock ends royal experiment. Another simply said, Hollywood's patience has run out. For someone who had once commanded global adoration, the silence that followed was deafening. And this wasn't just a career hiccup. It was a collapse. Overnight, phone calls stopped. Invitations vanished. Directors who once courted her now declined politely. One insider said, she went from the most sought-after name to the one nobody wanted on their call sheet. But here's where it gets even darker. Behind closed doors, there were whispers that Jennifer Sock wasn't acting alone, that other Hollywood power players had grown tired of Meghan's behavior. That Sock's public rebuke was a signal to others. Enough was enough. Suddenly, doors across Los Angeles started closing one by one. Meghan's emails went unanswered. Netflix executives began reevaluating their relationship. Oprah stayed silent. Even her supposed allies, Tyler Perry and Serena Williams, pulled back quietly. Was this an orchestrated takedown, or a long overdue consequence? The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the tension between perception and reality. Meghan had built a brand on empowerment and authenticity, but Hollywood saw something different. A performer obsessed with image, control, and narrative manipulation. Jennifer Sock saw through it first, and when she decided to speak, she didn't whisper. She roared. There's a strange irony to all of this. Meghan once left the royal family to find her voice. But in Hollywood, that very voice, sharp, demanding, relentless, became the reason she was silenced. Let's pause here and ask the question that matters. Why now? Why did Jennifer Sock choose this moment to draw the line? The answer is simple: timing. Amazon MGM had been under pressure after a series of high-budget flops. Investors were losing patience. The studio needed a win, not another PR circus. Meghan's project, initially touted as a cultural milestone, had turned into a financial black hole. And Jennifer Sock, known for her instinct to protect the brand, couldn't afford another disaster. So she made the hardest call of her career: cut the Duchess loose. That decision sent shockwaves not just through Hollywood, but through Buckingham Palace. Royal insiders reportedly smirked. Told you, one said. She thought Hollywood would play by her rules. Even British tabloids, long fatigued by Meghan headlines, reignited the flames. Duchess dumped. And in the middle of it all stood Jennifer Sock, unmoved. To her, this wasn't personal, it was about integrity. But to Meghan, it was betrayal. That's the tension we'll unravel tonight. The hidden power struggle between a Hollywood titan and a royal rebel. The whispered meetings, the leaked memos, the explosive confrontation that ended it all. Because what started as a dream partnership turned into a cautionary tale, one that exposed the truth about power, pride, and the price of fame. As the credits rolled on her Amazon deal, Meghan reportedly told a friend, "They can't erase me." But in an industry built on silence and image, maybe they already had. And that's where we begin. The downfall of a duchess at the hands of Hollywood's most powerful woman. A story of ambition, arrogance, and accountability. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. It began with flashbulbs. Hundreds of them, bursting like fireworks outside Amazon MGM Studios' Silver Glass Tower in Culver City. The air shimmered with a kind of forced excitement, the kind you feel when everyone is pretending this moment will change everything. Meghan Markle stepped out of a black SUV, the kind reserved for Hollywood royalty and political power players. She adjusted her white blazer, brushed an invisible speck of dust off her lapel, and smiled that smile, the one she had perfected over years of cameras and controversies. Reporters shouted her name, assistants rushed forward, and PR handlers whispered cues into earpieces. It was supposed to be the dawn of a new era, the Duchess reborn as a creative visionary. With love, Meghan, her upcoming Amazon series, was already being touted as a hybrid of elegance and empowerment. A love letter to womanhood, one producer called it. But inside, behind the glittering glass doors, Jennifer Sock watched from her office window with a calm expression that betrayed nothing. She'd seen stars come and go, promises made and broken, hype turned to disaster overnight. To her, Meghan's arrival wasn't destiny, it was a gamble. Still, in that moment, everything seemed perfect. Meghan glided into the building like a queen entering her court. Cameras followed her down the marble hallway, every step echoing confidence. "We're so thrilled to be partnering with Amazon," she said, voice measured, poised. "This is about creating stories that uplift, that connect, that remind women of their worth." The crowd applauded. Staff smiled on cue. But behind those smiles, there was a whisper that even then hinted at what was coming. "She's charming," one junior executive murmured to another. "But is she real?" That question would haunt every meeting that followed. You see, Meghan's gift had always been image. The power to reshape perception, to take control of the narrative. She'd done it with the royal family. She'd done it with Oprah. And now, she planned to do it with Hollywood. But Hollywood, unlike the palace, doesn't bend easily. Jennifer Sock had spent decades building her empire not on glamour, but grit. She was the woman who turned struggling networks into powerhouses, who gave birth to the streaming revolution, who survived egos bigger than empires. "Ideal in results, not royalty," she once said during an industry panel. And while Meghan's charisma intrigued her at first, it didn't take long for cracks to form beneath the charm. During their first private meeting, Meghan arrived 25 minutes late. Her team entered first, rearranging chairs and lighting before she walked in. She opened with a practiced laugh. "Sorry, I was on the phone with Montecito." Jennifer nodded politely, already marking the behavior in her mental ledger. What followed was an hour-long monologue from Meghan about authenticity, women's voices, and the burden of being misunderstood. She talked about energy, intuition, healing, and a vision that would shift global consciousness. Jennifer listened, expression unreadable, while her assistant scribbled notes that would later be summarized in one word: vague. Still, Jennifer gave her the benefit of the doubt. After all, she had managed difficult creatives before, directors who screamed, actors who vanished, writers who demanded rewrites at midnight. Meghan was different, but not impossible. Or so Jennifer thought. The first warning came weeks later. Meghan's production budget ballooned overnight. Additional stylists, personal lighting, private chefs on set. When Amazon's accounting team flagged the expenses, Meghan's representatives insisted these were creative necessities. One invoice even listed floral energy maintenance. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Floral what? The finance director shrugged. Apparently, she believes flowers affect morale. By then, whispers had spread through the corridors. "It's turning into the Crown 2.0, one producer joked. Except without the talent or the budget. But here's the thing about Hollywood. In the beginning, everyone still hopes for magic. The first table read of With Love, Meghan was held in Studio B, an airy space filled with nervous writers and ambitious interns. Meghan entered late again, apologizing with that polished grace, carrying a tray of herbal teas. "I brought something special to calm our energies," she said. Nobody drank it. Jennifer arrived quietly, took her seat, and let the session begin. At first, it was fine, predictable, rehearsed. Then Meghan interrupted, mid-line, waving her hand dramatically. "No, no, no. That's not how women talk," she said, her tone firm but coated in artificial warmth. The room went silent. The writer blinked. "You mean this character?" Meghan smiled tightly. "No, I mean women. Real women." The irony was painful. Jennifer didn't say anything then. She simply observed. She'd learned over the years that the most revealing thing in Hollywood wasn't what people said, it was how they said it. And Meghan said everything like she was still on stage, still performing, still proving something. Days turned into weeks. Deadlines blurred. Rewrites piled up. Assistants whispered about chaos in Meghan's creative suite, storylines changing daily, entire crews waiting while Meghan recentered her focus. Even seasoned producers began avoiding her office. "She's exhausting," one admitted after a 14-hour shoot. "It's like being trapped in a never-ending interview." Yet somehow, Meghan seemed unaware of the tension growing around her. She smiled for cameras, posed for glossy promotional photos, posted motivational quotes online. "Manifestation is everything," one caption read. But manifestation, Jennifer knew, wasn't a substitute for hard work. Then came the gala night. Amazon MGM threw an exclusive event to celebrate its new wave of female-led projects. The ballroom glittered with A-listers, investors, and journalists. Meghan arrived wearing a custom gold gown, the press surrounding her like bees to honey. "It's not a party," she told one interviewer. "It's a movement." Jennifer watched from across the room. Holding a glass of champagne she didn't drink. She could see it, the disconnect between Meghan's words and the industry's patience. Executives exchanged knowing glances. Agents smiled politely, then drifted away mid-conversation. Behind the glitz, there was fatigue. People were growing tired of the Meghan show. And that's when the first confrontation happened. After the event, during the after-dinner mingle, Meghan approached Jennifer with cameras nearby. "Jennifer," she said, tone sweet but sharp, "we should talk about the marketing rollout. I think it needs to be more royal." Jennifer gave her that look. "Cool, assessing, sharp as glass." "Royal?" she repeated. Meghan laughed lightly. "You know, global, aspirational. I have ideas about how we can position this as a brand, not just a show." Jennifer set down her glass. "We're not branding royalty," she said softly. "We're producing content." For a moment, the air froze. Meghan blinked, smiled wider, then said, "Of course. But you understand the value of my story." Jennifer leaned in just slightly. "I understand the value of results." Then she turned and walked away. It was subtle, polite, but devastating. For the first time, someone had reminded Meghan that she wasn't the crown jewel. She was the hired talent. From that night on, something shifted. Jennifer began receiving quiet reports, staff resignations, missed deadlines, unapproved interviews. Meghan's creative independence had become a liability. Yet every time someone tried to raise concerns, Meghan countered with charm and deflection. "I'm just trying to make it authentic," she'd say. But authenticity, Jennifer realized, had become a mask, one that couldn't hide the cracks anymore. Behind the cameras, Meghan's team grew divided. Some were loyal to her to the end, believing she'd been misunderstood. Others quietly jumped ship, signing NDAs as they went. One insider later described it bluntly. She was fighting for control of something she didn't understand, and losing. Still, publicly, the illusion remained flawless. Photos from the set showed laughter, collaboration, sisterhood, the kind of image Hollywood loves, but Hollywood also knows when the photo doesn't match the film. And then came the first leak. An anonymous insider told a trade magazine that production was in chaos. The article described Meghan as unfocused and domineering. Her PR team went into overdrive, calling it misogyny, jealousy, racism, anything to shift the narrative. But inside Amazon, the reaction was cold. Jennifer Salk was known for loyalty, but also for discipline. When chaos reached her desk, she didn't ask questions, she demanded answers. She summoned the project leads to a meeting. "What's happening?" she asked. "Is this salvageable?" The silence that followed was more revealing than any explanation. From that moment, Jennifer began keeping records, timelines, memos, emails. Hollywood wasn't just about talent, it was about accountability. And she knew where this was heading. Meanwhile, Meghan doubled down on the optics. She arranged a glossy magazine interview, talking about creative challenges and finding her truth. The interviewer asked if she felt supported by Amazon. Meghan smiled faintly. "Support is a journey," she said, "but I'm learning to rely on myself." Those words didn't sit well at the studio. To Jennifer, they sounded like a warning shot, a preemptive blame game. She'd seen it before, stars who burned bridges before anyone could light the match. It wasn't just one moment that ended the illusion, it was all of them stacking up. The late arrivals, the rewrites, the leaked emails, the growing sense that Meghan wasn't creating a show, she was staging a personal redemption arc. But Hollywood doesn't do redemption on cue. And Jennifer Salk, the woman who once championed Meghan's vision, began to see the bigger picture. This wasn't collaboration. It was chaos wrapped in charisma. Still, she stayed silent, watching, calculating, waiting for the right moment to act. Because in Hollywood, timing is everything. And Meghan Markle had just run out of it. But what came next? The leak, the meeting, the rage that would ripple through the industry, would make every scandal before look like a warm-up act. Because when Jennifer finally spoke, she didn't just end a project. She started a reckoning. The kind no one, not even Meghan Markle, could have seen coming. Who really is Jennifer Sock? That's the question that rippled through Hollywood the moment her name trended alongside Meghan Markle's in the headlines. Some called her Hollywood's quiet hammer. Others called her the Iron Velvet. But everyone agreed on one thing. When Jennifer Sock makes a move, the industry shifts. Because unlike Meghan, Jennifer didn't build her empire on image. She built it on results. And in Hollywood, that's the only currency that lasts. Picture her years before the cameras, before the power suits and the corner office at Amazon Studios. Jennifer Sock began like so many others, a dreamer, a believer, a woman navigating an industry that often dismissed her for being too kind or too calm. But she wasn't calm. She was calculating. She learned early that in a town full of egos, the real power belongs to the person who listens. She started at 20th Century Fox, moved to NBC, and eventually found herself running Amazon Studios, one of the biggest streaming empires on Earth. She oversaw billion-dollar hits, balanced corporate chaos, and somehow managed to keep her reputation spotless. No scandals, no feuds, no reckless sound bites, just numbers, strategy, and vision. So when Meghan Markle walked into her world, loud, glamorous, chaotic, it wasn't intimidation that Jennifer felt. It was instinct, the kind that tells you a storm is coming. But let's back up. Jennifer's office was nothing like the Hollywood stereotype. No red carpet photos, no designer art. Just shelves lined with scripts, awards tucked between them, and a giant window overlooking Los Angeles. It was here that she made decisions that changed people's lives, some for better, some for worse. And it was here, one late night, that she first said the words, "We may have a Meghan problem." Her assistant froze. A problem? Jennifer didn't look up from her laptop. She's charming, yes. But charm doesn't deliver content. It wasn't malice. It was math. Jennifer dealt in metrics, not moods. To her, a show wasn't about headlines or hashtags. It was about viewership, retention, and quality. But Meghan, to Jennifer's growing frustration, didn't understand that. She was playing a different game, one of optics, image, and emotional narratives. To Jennifer, it was a dangerous mismatch. Imagine the contrast. Jennifer arrives early, coffee in hand, already reviewing a dozen reports before sunrise. Meghan arrives late, entourage in tow, talking about vibrations, synergy, and the feminine energy of her brand. To Jennifer, it sounded like poetry without a plot. Hollywood insiders began noticing it too. One executive joked, "Jennifer runs a studio. Meghan runs a fantasy." The line made its way through corridors, whispered like prophecy. And yet, Jennifer didn't lash out. Not her style. She preferred precision to public spectacle. But beneath the calm exterior, something was brewing. A quiet frustration turning into firm resolve. See, Jennifer Sock had spent years fighting for women in Hollywood, the right kind of women. Creators who worked, who delivered, who respected the grind. She mentored writers, producers, and directors. She was known for giving second chances, for believing in underdogs. But she also had boundaries. And Meghan Markle, with her royal entitlement and endless excuses, crossed every one. At first, Jennifer tried the diplomatic route. She sent notes. Gentle reminders about professionalism, creative deadlines, teamwork. But Meghan brushed them off. "I'm redefining the process," she said once in a meeting, smiling like she had just invented television. Jennifer didn't smile back. That night, she called her inner circle, a tight-knit group of executives she trusted more than anyone. They gathered in her office, the city glowing beneath them. "I've dealt with divas," she said calmly, "but this is different. This is delusion." They discussed strategy, damage control, reputation management. But as one producer put it, you can't manage someone who doesn't believe rules apply to her. And that's when Jennifer decided she wouldn't fight Meghan publicly. She'd let the work speak for itself. The next few weeks were telling. Jennifer stopped attending Meghan's meetings. She pulled back her direct involvement. She watched from a distance as the chaos unfolded. Delays, reshoots, budget spikes. It was like watching a slow-motion car crash she had already predicted. But while the studio unraveled under Meghan's leadership, Jennifer's empire continued to grow elsewhere. New projects launched. Awards were won. Investors praised her. She was proving quietly and effectively that the problem wasn't Amazon, it was Meghan. Still, Meghan's influence lingered like a bad echo. She was charming in interviews, framing herself as the misunderstood visionary. She played the press like a violin, talking about empowerment, female leadership, the challenges of being a woman with a voice. The irony was almost unbearable. Jennifer had built her entire career on empowering women, real women who delivered. Watching Meghan twist that narrative for sympathy infuriated her. But she stayed silent, waiting for the right moment. Because Jennifer Sock didn't react, she responded. One story that floated around the studio later summed her up perfectly. During a heated budget meeting, an executive shouted, "We're bleeding money because of her." Everyone expected Jennifer to snap. She didn't. She leaned forward, adjusted her glasses, and said softly, "Then let's stop the bleeding." No shouting, no drama, just action. That was Jennifer's power, quiet authority, the kind that doesn't need attention to command fear. Meanwhile, Meghan continued her Hollywood parade. She made appearances at galas, talked about creative freedom, dropped hints about future projects. But behind the scenes, Jennifer was already preparing for the inevitable, the reckoning that would come when the numbers hit her desk. And when they did, it was worse than anyone expected. Production costs doubled. Viewership projections plummeted. Early test audiences found the pilot shallow and self-absorbed. Marketing executives begged for changes, but Meghan resisted. "It's my vision," she said. Jennifer read the reports in silence, then signed her name at the bottom with a note. Terminate pending review. But before that termination became official, Jennifer decided to confront the problem head-on. She called a meeting with Meghan, private, no assistants, no cameras, just the two of them. The tension in the room was thick enough to taste. Meghan smiled as she entered, that same PR-polished confidence. "Jennifer," she said warmly, "I know there's been some miscommunication." Jennifer gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit." For 30 minutes, Jennifer let Meghan talk about betrayal, creative integrity, misunderstanding, and public perception. When Meghan finally paused, Jennifer said quietly, "This isn't misunderstanding. It's mismanagement." Meghan blinked. "Excuse me. You were hired to create a show." Jennifer continued, her voice steady. "Not a spectacle. You promised leadership. What we got was chaos." Meghan's smile faltered. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "I do," Jennifer cut in. "I've been in this business long enough to recognize pressure. But I also recognize when someone uses it as an excuse." Silence. Then Jennifer leaned forward, eyes unblinking. "You want to be respected in Hollywood? Earn it. Titles don't matter here. Talent does." The meeting ended with Meghan leaving in stunned silence. Outside, her PR team waited expectantly. She didn't say a word. Later that day, Jennifer sent one email that would ripple through the company. Reassess all Markle-affiliated projects. Effective immediately. It was the beginning of the end. But even then, Jennifer wasn't gloating. In private, she reportedly told a colleague, "I wish it hadn't come to this. But this industry only survives when we hold people accountable." Those words would later define her legacy. Not as the woman who destroyed Meghan Markle, but as the one who restored order to Hollywood's chaos. Still, something about the situation gnawed at her. Meghan's downfall wasn't just a personal failure. It was a reflection of everything wrong with modern celebrity, the illusion of substance without effort. And Jennifer knew what was coming next. Because when you remove a star from the sky, their fall lights up the whole world. That light, the scandal, the leaks, the backlash, was about to explode. And when it did, it would pull everyone into its orbit. Because while Jennifer Sock built her empire on discipline, Meghan Markle was about to teach Hollywood what happens when image meets reality and loses. The storm was here, and Jennifer was ready for it. But no one else was. Not the producers, not the PR teams, not even Meghan herself. Because the next chapter wasn't about contracts or emails. It was about revenge and exposure. And it all started with one recording. One secret tape. One meeting that should have stayed private, but didn't. And when it surfaced, it would send Meghan Markle's Hollywood dreams crashing into ashes. It started with one phone call. Just one. A frantic voice on the other end of the line saying, "Jennifer, we have a situation." Jennifer Sock sat in her corner office, Los Angeles lights spilling across stacks of production notes. She'd been expecting this moment. For weeks, the warning signs had been building. Emails unanswered, meetings canceled, directors quietly threatening to walk. But even she couldn't have predicted how fast the dream would unravel. The dream, of course, was with Love, Meghan, a project that was supposed to redefine Meghan Markle's public image and transform Amazon's cultural portfolio. But inside the studio, it had become something else entirely, a slow-motion disaster. The first official production report landed on Jennifer's desk just before noon. It was thicker than expected, dozens of pages documenting everything that had gone wrong in 6 short weeks. Delayed shooting schedules, unusable footage, crew turnover, and one recurring phrase that made Jennifer's stomach tighten: creative interference by talent. That talent, of course, was Meghan. She'd turned what should have been a smooth production into an emotional battlefield. Directors were afraid to make decisions without her approval. Writers stopped submitting new pages because she kept rewriting them. And the crew, people who'd worked on everything from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel to The Boys, said they'd never seen anything like it. "She treats every scene like it's Buckingham Palace," one set coordinator confessed. "We spend half the day waiting for her to decide which angle flatters her most." Another whispered, "We're filming a show, not a coronation." The irony was cruel. Meghan had fled the palace to escape control, and now she'd recreated her own monarchy inside Amazon Studios. Jennifer read every line of that report in silence. She didn't sigh. She didn't curse. She just picked up the phone and said, "Schedule a meeting. Tomorrow morning. Everyone." But while Jennifer planned her next move, Meghan was blissfully unaware, or maybe she simply didn't care. In her mind, everything was going perfectly. The set looked beautiful. The wardrobe was flawless. The energy, her word for everything, was high. She told her staff she was creating something revolutionary. "We're not just making a show," she said one morning, pacing between the makeup chairs. "We're creating a movement. This is what legacy looks like." But legacy doesn't come from monologues. It comes from work. And the people actually doing the work were burning out fast. The tension reached a breaking point during episode 3. The director, a respected veteran known for patience, finally snapped after Meghan changed the entire script minutes before shooting. He walked out mid-scene, slamming his clipboard. The entire room froze. Meghan just blinked. "If he can't handle my vision," she said quietly, "maybe he shouldn't be here." The production assistant who overheard that line later said, "That was the moment we knew she'd lost the room." News travels fast in Hollywood, and by the next day, Jennifer had 3 separate calls from department heads begging for intervention. Still, she waited. Not because she didn't believe them, but because she needed evidence. Hard proof. And soon, she got it. One of the producers, frustrated, exhausted, desperate, recorded a staff meeting without permission. The tape was never meant to go public. It was meant for internal use, to show how out of control things had become. But as things often do in Hollywood, it found its way to the wrong inbox. On that recording, Meghan could allegedly be heard raising her voice, dismissing the writing team, and making a comment that would later haunt her. "I'm the brand here. They work around me." Jennifer listened to that tape 3 times. By the end, she set her pen down and said just one word: "Enough." The next morning, the conference room was full. Meghan arrived late, of course. Her team followed like shadows, each one glued to their phones. Jennifer stood at the head of the table, arms folded, face unreadable. "Let's talk about expectations," Jennifer began. Her tone was calm, but the room felt colder somehow. Meghan smiled. "Of course. I've been meaning to." Jennifer raised a hand. "Not from you, Meghan. From us." There was a pause. Meghan blinked. Jennifer continued. "This project is in freefall. People are leaving. Schedules are slipping. Costs are doubling. You're not leading this team. You're alienating them." Meghan's jaw tightened. "With respect, Jennifer, that's not fair." I'm passionate. I have standards. Passion is fine, Jennifer replied, voice steady. But this isn't passion. It's control. The silence that followed felt endless. Even Meghan's PR handler stopped typing notes. Jennifer looked directly at her. You said you wanted to build something empowering. Instead, you've built fear. You talk about collaboration, but you've turned this into a monarchy. And last I checked, Amazon doesn't serve crowns. A few muffled chuckles escaped around the room. Nervous, not amused. Meghan's eyes flashed. Are you mocking me? Jennifer tilted her head. No, I'm telling you the truth. And the truth is this. If things don't change now, we'll shut the entire production down. For the first time, Meghan didn't have a response. She looked around the table. People she thought were on her side avoiding her gaze. It wasn't betrayal. It was exhaustion. The facade was cracking. The meeting ended without resolution. Meghan left the building without a word. But behind the scenes, things were about to explode. Within hours, that recording, the one Jennifer had sworn would remain confidential, was leaked to an outside journalist. How? No one knew. But the damage was instant. A major entertainment blog published an article titled, Inside Meghan Markle's Amazon Meltdown. The story went viral in less than an hour. Suddenly, the Duchess wasn't the victim. She was the villain. Headlines screamed across every tabloid. Markle's Hollywood ego out of control. Amazon staff in revolt over Meghan's behavior. Twitter turned savage. Guess the royal treatment didn't end in England, one user wrote. Jennifer's phone lit up like wildfire. Executives demanding statements, investors panicking. She could have distanced herself immediately, thrown Meghan under the bus. But she didn't. Not yet. Instead, she said quietly, let the story breathe. Let the truth reveal itself. And reveal itself it did. 2 days later, another leak surfaced, this time from an Amazon insider defending Jennifer. It painted a picture of chaos behind the scenes, yes, but also of patience. Of Jennifer trying to help, of giving Meghan every chance to course correct. It ended with one devastating line. Jennifer Sock gave Meghan Markle enough rope to build a ladder, or hang herself. She chose the latter. By then, Meghan's team was in full panic. Emergency PR meetings, carefully worded statements, damage control emails. But it was too late. The narrative had flipped, and Hollywood never rewrites once it's entertained. And still, the worst was yet to come. Because one thing Meghan hadn't realized was that Hollywood doesn't forget. Not the people you mistreat, not the assistants you yell at, not the interns you dismiss. And Jennifer Sock? She remembered everything. Rumors spread that Jennifer had ordered a full internal audit of Meghan's project. Every expense, every invoice, every late-night email. Insiders said she wanted the facts laid bare. So there's no confusion when the hammer drops. Meanwhile, Meghan tried to control the damage by doubling down on her narrative. She called a private press meeting, promising exclusive insight into her creative process. But Jennifer shut it down. Legally, you do not own this narrative, the legal memo read. Amazon does. It was over. Meghan just didn't know it yet. By the end of that month, production halted. Crew members were reassigned. The studio remained silent publicly, but behind the scenes, Jennifer was preparing something even bigger, a statement that would shake the entire industry. One insider said it best. Jennifer wasn't just firing Meghan. She was making an example of her. And maybe that's what Hollywood needed. A reminder that fame without discipline isn't power. It's poison. But the story didn't end there. Because Meghan, desperate to save herself, decided to strike back the only way she knew how. Through the press, she contacted a trusted journalist, offering to set the record straight. What she didn't know was that Amazon's PR department was already one step ahead. Within 24 hours, her attempt to rewrite the story turned into another PR disaster. The journalist leaked snippets of her messages, lines that made her sound paranoid, even unstable. They're jealous, she allegedly wrote. They never wanted a royal success story. Jennifer's threatened by me. When Jennifer saw that message, she smiled faintly for the first time in weeks. Not out of joy, but finality. Because now she didn't have to defend herself. Meghan was doing it for her. By the time Amazon issued its official statement, citing creative differences and restructuring, everyone knew what that really meant. Meghan Markle was finished. The Duchess had lost her second palace. But what came next would be even more brutal. Because Jennifer Sock wasn't satisfied with ending a contract. She was about to end an era, and the next move she made would leave Meghan not just unemployed, but exiled from Hollywood itself. It began behind closed doors. A private meeting that was never supposed to exist, never supposed to be recorded, and certainly never meant to escape the sleek glass walls of Amazon MGM studios. But in Hollywood, secrets have a way of slipping through air vents, whispered from one assistant to another until they hit the front page. On that sweltering Los Angeles afternoon, the conference room on the 12th floor was locked. No press, no PR, no witnesses. Just Jennifer Sock, her executive team, and a handful of producers. Everyone knew something serious was about to happen. "Close the doors," Jennifer said as she entered, "and make sure no one else walks in." Those who were there would later describe the mood as electric and terrifying. Jennifer's voice, usually calm, precise, almost surgical, was different that day. It carried weight, authority, anger she didn't bother hiding anymore. On the table in front of her sat a stack of documents. Production audits, transcripts, leaked articles, and that now infamous recording of Meghan Markle berating her staff. Jennifer tapped the top of the pile with one finger. "This," she said slowly, "is not how we do business." She looked around the room. Nobody dared move. For months, she had tolerated the chaos, hoping Meghan would adapt, hoping her supposed brilliance would finally shine through. But that hope was gone. What remained was a sense of betrayal. Not just to Amazon, but to every hardworking person who believed in the project. She turned this place into a circus. Jennifer continued, voice sharp. "She's mocked our team, ignored protocol, wasted millions, and still thinks she's untouchable." A nervous producer spoke up. "Do we go public? Or handle it quietly?" Jennifer turned to him. "Quietly. We've been quiet. And what did that get us? Leaks, lies, and a laughingstock of a production." Her tone hardened. "No, not this time." Someone else muttered, "But she's connected. Royal family, Oprah, Tyler Perry." Jennifer cut them off. "I don't care if she's connected to the moon. She signed a contract. She broke it. End of story." The silence that followed was heavy enough to choke on. Then, one of the executives dared to ask, "What exactly do you want to do, Jennifer?" She paused, looked at each of them. Then she said, "We're terminating her deal. Effective immediately." The words hung in the air, like a gavel striking marble. No one spoke. No one even breathed for a moment. Then, one by one, the executives nodded. Some looked relieved. Others looked terrified. But everyone knew there was no turning back. Jennifer stood. "Prepare the documents. I want everything clean, legal, airtight. And tell communications to hold all statements until I say so." As she turned to leave, her assistant asked quietly, "Should we warn her?" Jennifer didn't even glance back. "She'll find out soon enough." That was the moment it was over. But the world didn't know it yet. Hours later, the story began to spread inside the studio like wildfire. Someone had overheard something. Another had read an email draft. Within a day, everyone knew the Duchess's dream project was dead, and Jennifer Sock had personally pulled the trigger. And then came the leak. The same recording that Jennifer had played in that meeting. The one that captured Meghan's entitled outburst. Somehow slipped into the hands of a journalist. No one knew who leaked it, and no one ever took credit, but everyone suspected the same thing. It came from inside the room. The recording went viral. Fast. It wasn't long, just a few seconds of Meghan's voice, but it was enough. "I'm the brand here," she snapped in the clip. "They work around me." It was the sound of arrogance, of self-importance, of someone who believed the world revolved around her reflection. And once the public heard it, the internet erupted. Hashtag Meghan Meltdown trended within hours. Industry insiders posted cryptic tweets. Even veteran actors began sharing stories of diva behavior they'd witnessed firsthand. It was as if Hollywood had been waiting for permission to speak, and Jennifer Sock had just given it. But while the world was laughing, inside Amazon, things were far from funny. The leak was a legal nightmare. Confidential recordings, possible lawsuits, reputational damage. Jennifer called an emergency follow-up meeting, this time even more private than the first. When her communications chief asked, "Should we deny involvement?" Jennifer's reply was cold and clear. "Deny nothing. We don't need to speak. The truth is doing just fine on its own." For the first time, people saw the other side of Jennifer Sock, the woman who didn't raise her voice, but whose silence could cut deeper than a scream. Still, the pressure mounted. Journalists called nonstop. PR teams demanded a statement. Netflix executives whispered about similar difficulties. Meghan's lawyers threatened defamation suits. And Jennifer didn't flinch. She simply told her staff, "Do not engage. Let her show the world who she really is." And Meghan did. Within days, Meghan's PR team tried to spin the leak, calling it a doctored recording, a smear campaign, a misogynistic attack. But the tone of desperation was impossible to miss. The world had stopped listening. The sympathy that once followed her had evaporated. Meanwhile, inside Amazon, Jennifer received dozens of messages from producers, writers, even interns, thanking her. One email read, "You did what we all wanted to but couldn't. You reminded us that no one is above the work." Jennifer didn't respond to most of them. She didn't celebrate, didn't boast. She knew Hollywood was fickle. Today's hero could become tomorrow's villain. But privately, she felt a quiet sense of justice. Because this wasn't about one actress. It was about what she represented, a culture of entitlement that had been poisoning creativity for years. But Meghan wasn't done fighting. Late one night, a journalist emailed Amazon's PR department claiming Meghan planned to go public with her side of the story. She'd allegedly lined up an interview, one that would expose Hollywood corruption and set the record straight. When Jennifer read that email, she sighed. "She's going to dig herself deeper," she said. Her assistant frowned. "Should we respond?" Jennifer shook her head. "No, let her talk. Every word she says now is proof she doesn't understand how this business works." And she was right. Days later, Meghan appeared on a glossy magazine cover, face soft-lit, eyes defiant, headline blaring. "They tried to silence me." Inside, the interview was everything Jennifer expected: long paragraphs of self-pity, vague accusations, and no accountability. "I was never treated like a partner," Meghan said. "They saw me as a symbol, not a person." The reaction was brutal. Readers weren't sympathetic this time. The comments were ruthless. "You were paid millions," one wrote. "You silenced yourself." Even Meghan's supporters began to distance themselves. Former friends refused to comment. Collaborators deleted photos. Hollywood, the same world that once embraced her, began closing its doors. And through it all, Jennifer remained silent. But then something unexpected happened. An anonymous insider leaked details of the original termination meeting, the one where Jennifer had said, "I don't care if she's connected to the moon." That quote hit social media like a grenade. Within hours, memes appeared, headlines screamed, and Jennifer Salk became an unlikely folk hero. She didn't ask for it. She didn't even want it. But her words, firm, fearless, final, resonated with an industry sick of walking on eggshells. She'd become the face of accountability in an age of excuses. Meanwhile, Meghan's world continued to shrink. Invitations disappeared. Calls went unanswered. Agents stopped pitching her. Her name, once currency, had become a liability. By the time she realized how bad it had gotten, it was too late. The tide had turned completely. But the story still wasn't over. Because while the leak had exposed her arrogance, there was one more bombshell waiting to drop. Something that would destroy any chance of recovery. And it wouldn't come from the press. It would come from inside her own camp. Her most trusted ally. The one person Meghan never thought would betray her. But betrayal, as Hollywood loves to remind everyone, always comes from the inside. And when it hit, it would send the Duchess's already crumbling empire crashing into dust. What came next wasn't just scandal, it was annihilation. And Jennifer Salk, calm as ever, was already waiting for it to happen. The day the headlines turned against her, Meghan Markle didn't retreat, she regrouped. She was furious. Not at herself, not at the chaos she'd created, but at Jennifer Salk. To Meghan, this wasn't about a failed project anymore. It was about power, image, and revenge. She believed she could fight back the same way she always had, with the press. But Hollywood isn't the monarchy, and in this town, leaking a story can burn more bridges than it builds. Still, Meghan went ahead. She gathered her PR team at her Montecito mansion, the same team she'd relied on for years to spin every crisis into a comeback. There, in a candlelit living room that smelled of eucalyptus and tension, she gave her orders. "We control the narrative," she said. voice low but fierce. "We don't let Jennifer define me. We remind people who I am." Her publicist hesitated. Jennifer Salk runs the most powerful studio in Hollywood. Maybe it's better to lay low for a while. Meghan's eyes flashed. "I don't hide. I shape perception." That line would come back to haunt her. Within days, Meghan's PR machine was in motion. Anonymous sources close to the Duchess began feeding flattering soundbites to major outlets. Articles appeared overnight painting her as the victim of corporate bullying. Meghan pushed for inclusivity, one story claimed. But old Hollywood wasn't ready for her vision. It sounded noble, but it wasn't true. And Jennifer Salk, sitting quietly in her office with her legal team, knew it. "She's starting a war," Jennifer said calmly as she read one of the articles aloud. "And she doesn't understand who she's fighting." Her communications director frowned. "Do we respond?" "No," Jennifer said. "We let her swing first. Then we show the world what she's swinging at." The next morning, another exclusive hit the tabloids. This time, the narrative got uglier. Amazon executives sabotaged Meghan's project, it screamed. The piece quoted a production insider who accused Amazon of leaking the recording to smear Meghan's name. The story spread like wildfire. Meghan's fans rallied online, crying foul, using hashtags like #JusticeForMeghan and #ToxicAmazon. For a moment, it looked like her PR blitz might actually work. Public sympathy began to flicker again. Old allies started to reach out privately. Maybe she was treated unfairly, one celebrity tweeted. But Jennifer had anticipated that. She didn't panic. She didn't call a press conference. She simply waited, and when she struck back, it was with surgical precision. Amazon's legal department quietly reached out to several major outlets that had printed Meghan's claims. They provided documentation, detailed, time-stamped reports of the project's failures, memos signed by Meghan herself, emails showing she had rejected direction, rewritten scripts, and approved decisions she later blamed others for. And then came the internal audit, Jennifer's secret weapon. The audit, completed weeks earlier, contained line-by-line evidence of Meghan's mismanagement, inflated budgets, unauthorized expenditures, and multiple staff complaints. But the most damning section? A chain of emails in which Meghan personally overruled her team, costing Amazon nearly $2.5 million in wasted resources. Jennifer's PR team didn't leak it directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they let it find its way into the hands of a respected industry journalist known for brutal honesty. 2 days later, Variety dropped a bombshell. Exclusive. Internal audit reveals Meghan Markle's Amazon project collapsed under mismanagement, not misogyny. The internet exploded. In one day, the hashtags flipped. #JusticeForMeghan became #JustStopMeghan. The narrative Meghan had spent weeks building crumbled overnight. And for Jennifer, it was a masterclass in restraint. She played it like a chess grandmaster, one insider said. Meghan was out here swinging swords while Jennifer was quietly moving pawns and winning. But Meghan wasn't done. Her anger turned personal. She began calling journalists directly, offering exclusive behind-the-scenes insight. One even described her tone as desperate. She wanted the world to know she'd been betrayed, framed, silenced. But every time she tried to speak, she made it worse. One off-the-record conversation leaked. Meghan allegedly accused Jennifer of being jealous of her global influence and trying to destroy a successful woman of color. That quote spread faster than anything before. But instead of outrage, it drew ridicule. One commentator wrote, "Jennifer Salk runs an empire. Meghan can't run a show." The optics were brutal. And then came the fatal mistake. Desperate to regain control, Meghan's PR team pushed a story to an online outlet claiming that Amazon's leadership feared Meghan's political potential. It implied Jennifer Salk had secretly coordinated with royal insiders to damage Meghan's image before the 2024 election season. It was ridiculous, conspiratorial, and worst of all, it was traceable. Jennifer's lawyers tracked the leak straight back to Meghan's PR firm. Within 24 hours, Amazon terminated all remaining contractual ties and issued a pointed statement. "We are proud to support storytellers who collaborate with integrity and respect. We do not engage in narratives that misrepresent the truth or compromise our values." They didn't name Meghan. They didn't have to. Everyone knew. By the following morning, Jennifer's calm authority had turned her into a Hollywood icon. Publications began running profiles on her leadership style. Jennifer Salk brings accountability back to Hollywood, read one headline. Meanwhile, Meghan's team was in chaos. Her publicist quit. Her assistant resigned. Even her lawyer reportedly stopped returning calls. One of her PR coordinators later told a friend, "It was like watching a ship sink in slow motion, and she was still arguing about the curtains." Yet Meghan refused to stop talking. She tried to pivot, going on podcasts and interviews, turning the ordeal into a morality tale. "It's about women standing up to power," she said in one appearance. But the irony was deafening. She was the power who'd been standing on everyone else. Audiences noticed. Comment sections filled with questions. If she was innocent, why is everyone who worked with her silent? Why does she keep blaming everyone else? Her once loyal fan base fractured. Even sympathetic outlets began calling her a cautionary tale of self-sabotage. Jennifer, meanwhile, went back to business as usual. She didn't gloat. She didn't look back. She greenlit new projects, celebrated real creators, and sent her staff a single memo that summed up her philosophy. Respect the process. Respect each other. The work will speak for itself. It was, in many ways, a quiet burial. No statement, no confrontation, just silence. But Meghan couldn't accept silence. Late one night, she posted a cryptic quote to her Instagram story, "Truth will rise." Always. It was meant to sound powerful. Instead, it sounded hollow. The truth had already risen, and it wasn't hers. Behind the scenes, former colleagues began whispering about her next desperate move. One of them said, "She's planning to leak something bigger, something that'll blow back on Jennifer." And she did. A week later, anonymous emails started landing in journalists' inboxes. They contained supposed internal messages between Jennifer and her executives, edited screenshots meant to make Jennifer look vindictive. The problem? The metadata didn't match. They were fake. When Jennifer's legal team caught wind of it, they traced the doctored files straight to a laptop registered under Meghan's household staff. The fallout was immediate. Lawyers got involved. Quietly. Privately. Amazon didn't sue. They didn't need to. They leaked nothing, said nothing, did nothing. But industry insiders got the message. Meghan Markle had crossed the final line. From that day forward, she wasn't just difficult. She was radioactive. Directors stopped taking her calls. Producers ghosted her. Even friendly talk shows declined to book her. Hollywood doesn't forgive fake receipts. And the irony? The woman who built her empire on media manipulation had been destroyed by her own tactics. Jennifer Salk, meanwhile, didn't even have to say a word. She'd done what no one thought possible, defeated Meghan Markle in her own arena, public perception. But as Jennifer's reputation soared, Meghan's desperation deepened. She wasn't ready to accept defeat. She wanted payback. And payback, in her mind, meant exposure. Because in Meghan's world, the louder you shout, the less guilty you look. She believed she could still flip the story, still convince the world she was the victim. So she made a call. One that would ignite the next scandal and drag everyone into the fire. A call that would reach a man who knew too much. A man who had once helped her escape scandal before. But this time, his silence would cost her everything. And when his voice broke through the line saying, "Meghan, what have you done?" she knew her empire had finally gone up in flames. It didn't arrive with drama. No flashing red alert. No frantic phone call. No assistant bursting into the room. It came quietly, the way the most devastating blows always do. A single email. Timestamp, 6:43 p.m. Sender, Jennifer Salk. Subject line, immediate termination of agreement. That was it. No emojis. No warm closing line. Just a cold, corporate message powerful enough to vaporize an entire Hollywood dream. But to understand the weight of that email, you have to understand what happened in the hours leading up to it. The final day when everything Meghan had been trying to hold together collapsed in front of her eyes, piece by fragile piece. It began that morning, with Meghan pacing in her Montecito office, holding two phones and speaking into both. One was her PR consultant. The other was an industry journalist she thought she could charm back to her side. "They're lying about me," Meghan insisted. "They're trying to destroy my brand, my voice, my truth." But the journalist, a man known for exposing Hollywood disasters, didn't sound convinced. He whispered, Meghan, they have receipts. Real ones. She froze. Receipts? What receipts? He hesitated. Internal audits. Emails. Memos. Stuff you don't want out there. Her stomach dropped. Who told you that? I can't say. Which meant everyone was talking. Everyone. She hung up on him mid-sentence. Her assistant rushed in seconds later, holding a tablet. Meghan, you need to see this. On the screen was a headline from a major publication. Not a tabloid. Not a gossip site. A respected industry journal. It read, Amazon sources confirm, leadership lost confidence in Markle's erratic decision-making. The article detailed blown budgets, missed deadlines, staff resignations, a hostile creative environment, and a quote from an unnamed executive. Meghan turned collaboration into chaos. Meghan felt her pulse pick up. Her breathing sharpened. No, this is sabotage. They're lying. They're scared of me. They're threatened. Her assistant didn't respond. What could she say? Because the truth was already out there. Meanwhile, back at Amazon MGM Studios, Jennifer sat in her office surrounded by documents. Contracts, timelines, financial breakdowns, legal summaries. Her lawyers were present. Her top executives were present. The head of communications. This wasn't a conversation. It was an execution. We cannot justify keeping the agreement in place, one lawyer said. The project is unsalvageable, another added. The head of PR flipped through pages. If we don't terminate cleanly now, we risk more leaks, more chaos, more liability. Jennifer listened. Calm, quiet, expression unreadable. She already knew what needed to be done. This isn't about punishment, she finally said. This is about protecting the studio. Another executive nodded. We all agree. Terminate immediately. Jennifer took a breath, leaned forward, and clicked open a new email draft. The room watched as she typed the words that would change everything. Effective immediately, Amazon MGM Studios is terminating all creative and contractual agreements associated with the With Love, Meghan project. Her fingers moved with purpose. No hesitation, no emotion. This wasn't personal. It was protocol. And yet, everyone in the room knew this was a historic moment. A Hollywood giant was cutting ties with someone who had once been the most talked-about woman in the world. When she finished, Jennifer read the email aloud. Her voice was steady, controlled, final. A lawyer nodded. Send it. Jennifer clicked the button. Send. The sound was almost silent. A soft ping. But in that tiny sound lived the collapse of an entire empire. Across Los Angeles, the email shot through cyberspace. Across servers. Across networks. Until it arrived in Meghan Markle's inbox. 6:43 p.m. Meghan was in the kitchen when her phone buzzed. She assumed it was another journalist. Another PR crisis. Another fire to put out. She glanced down. Saw the sender. Jennifer Sock. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She opened the email. Read the first line. Her breath caught. No, she whispered. No. Her hands shook as she scrolled. Her vision blurred. Her mind raced. This couldn't be happening. Not to her. Not after everything she had fought for. Not after she'd convinced herself.